Thanks, Goose. Dyscourse is a crowdsourced indie game that describes itself as an interactive choose-your-own-adventure. You play as Rita, who is stranded on an island with a handful of survivors after a plane crash.
The scenario is very much in the vein of the TV show Lost. There's a collection of different passengers, you all need to figure out how to survive, and you quickly find yourself making decisions for the group.
True to the game's choose-your-own-adventure formula, gameplay is very much centered around narrative choice. Mechanics are limited to basic movement and an interaction button, so it's simple, but it all feels quite intuitive and very polished. And like many narrative-based games, the decisions that you make don't always have the outcome you hope for.
Yeah, even the first person I tried to save was a failure. It just ended up screwing things up for them and helping the other guy. But the best thing about this game is just how many different directions it can go in.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, so often with interactive storytelling, you're led to believe that the choices you're making will lead to wildly different outcomes, but in reality, you're kind of just being sneakily funneled back around to the same result. But not here. This game is short, but that's good because you're going to want to play this again and again. There's so many different ways it can go.
Let's look at the characters, which are diverse and outspoken. And you'll learn a lot during your conversations with each of them. There's Rita, our protagonist. She's a hipster barista who makes for an unlikely leader of this island crew, but also seems the most self-aware.
Then there's Steve, the nihilistic and depressed. Teddy is a paranoid conspiracy theorist. Exactly the kind of people you want to be trapped on an island with.
Then there's George and Jolene, an older married couple. And Garrett, the gamer. Each character is funny and interesting in their own way and very much unpredictable.
Yeah, you immediately begin to pick your favourites, don't you? Or at least the ones you feel will be the most useful to the group.
Yeah, but they all have good and bad qualities, so it's quite hard to really like anyone. Except this Kitty. Oh, Kitty.
Well, what about George? I thought George was sweet, although I got him killed pretty quickly. Sorry, George.
George and Jolene were interesting because I liked them both at first. But in a second playthrough, I made some different decisions that led me to some new information regarding their relationship. And then suddenly, I was all about protecting George.
I really liked Garrett. I mean, obviously I had a soft spot for him because he was a gamer and he got picked on a little bit for that. But he also had some really lovely game-related references. And in certain situations, his game-related knowledge made him really useful in exploring certain parts of the island. But then there were other moments where he'd be really cowardly and self-serving, so I let him get eaten by a shark.
Your goal, of course, is to get off the island with as many survivors as possible. I'm not even sure if you can get off with everyone alive. Maybe there is some sort of particular set of choices that will lead to that outcome, but I rarely made it off with more than half the group.
Yeah, there's just so many weird ways it can go. In my first playthrough, we ended up setting up a colony on the other side of the island. And after taking a vote, we elected, and I forgot to mention this character, Dysky as our leader.
Ah, Dysky. I take this as a reference to Castaway, where you imbue an inanimate object with a persona. Dysky is a random yellow disc you can find in the wreckage, and the group decides to give it a name. Wilson!
Yeah, but how we got from that to worshipping it as our leader, I just don't know. It all just happened really quickly, and sometimes I don't even make the decisions that result in people dying. I just woke up one day and Garrett's head was on a pike. Apparently a victim of Dysky's wrath.
It's that island fever, Hex. Everyone starts going a little crazy.
After your first playthrough, you also unlock the ability to rewind the day, meaning you can go back and restart from the beginning of any day, altering the timeline from there. And that means you don't have to replay the entire game every single time if you don't want to.
Or if you just want to change one specific choice that led to the death of a character. I had fun with this, Hex. What about you?
Yeah, it's got great personality, it was funny, and I was making real audible WTF exclamations all the way through, which is a good sign. I was concerned at first that it was so short, but once I realised how genuinely different all of these various paths and outcomes were, I realised that the longevity of the game comes from repeat playthroughs.
Yeah, and as we've said, it's refreshing to play a narrative game where all the outcomes are so wildly different. This is great. I'm giving it 3.5 stars.
I'm giving it 3.5 as well.